Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to part 2 of What If Deku Had Friezas Potential. I'll be so real, you guys, I'm not going to sit here and just lie to you a lot. You guys didn't really appreciate the epicness of the series, but it don't matter because I enjoy scripting it, I can't lie. If I'm being honest, the best one's the script. Number 1 is My Hero Academia, best one the script. Then it's Dragon Ball Z, and then it's Naruto. Like it goes in that order. Don't get me wrong, Naruto's all fun the script, just not as fun as the rest. But I'm dragging out the intro. What I'm saying is, I'm still gonna make the series, even though it's not as popular. And yeah, let's just hope you enjoy it. Other than that, guys, let's just get straight into this and cue the intro. We now go to Deku, who is flying in the air with your rocket in his arms after completely decimating the 0 Point robot. He is absolutely laughing his ass off, as this is the most fun he's had in his entire life, other than training, of course. Like, don't get me wrong, like, he loves training. Uraraka, who is heavily blushing, says, "Sorry to interrupt your moment, but can you put me down?" Deku looks at her confused, just for a moment, of course, and then realizes they're flying, and he's holding her, innit? And then he goes to her, "Wait, you just interrupted my moment, yeah? So you're responsible for your landing?" Uraraka says, "What do you mean?" Because she's clearly confused by this. And that is when Deku drops her from the sky. She begins to fall screaming, saying, "Do you want me to die, you idiot?" Deku yells back, "Use your quirk, you idiot." Uraraka realizes that she forgot she had a quirk, and of course saved herself. She fell to the ground screaming, and barely lands on time, while Deku lands gracefully. Deku laughed at her and says, "Did you really forget you had a quirk?" Uraraka is a bit nauseous and laughs, saying, "Yeah, I sort of did. Thanks for saving me though." Deku smiles and says, "No that's one of familiar voice yells. How dare you!" Deku looked over to where the voice was coming from, and it's the same blue-haired boy from before, who is marching towards Deku. Man began to yell, "How dare you drop her on purpose? That isn't what a hero is meant to do. Do you really put her life at risk for pure entertainment? I don't get it. Just because someone has a good quirk doesn't mean they should be a hero, and you're the best example of that." "If I was you, I'll give up and leave you." Before Ida could finish his sentence, of course he was going to tell him leave you away. Deku punched him right on the nose, breaking his glass and sending him flying away. Ida got up with a bleeding nose and tries to say again, "How dare you!" But Deku just kicks him in the chest before he can say anything. Watching this, President Mike was about to step in, but Aizawa, who was also watching, grabs him and says, "No, give it a moment. These kids will never grow if they don't sort out their issues on their own." Ida, who was now gasping for air due to Deku's kicks, which caused Deku to say, "Good, I prefer you a lot more when you don't talk. Now, you told me, who do I think I am? I'm the one who fucking saved her life while you was all running away. You want to tell me that I shouldn't be a hero? You, who's meant to be from a prestigious hero family. From what I saw, you was the first one to run, but you want to try to give me a life lesson. How about just because people who have good quirks shouldn't be a hero? Just because you have a quirk that lets you run doesn't mean you should run away." I let her fall because her quirk is anti-gravity. I knew she could save herself. If she couldn't, I wouldn't have dropped her. I'm so sick of people like you who have a stick up their ass trying to tell me what's right and wrong. Deku clenches a fist, about to give Ida a knockout punch, but before he got into a full swing, Aizawa appeared and caught it. Aizawa then said, "Enough, both of you, before you get into trouble." Deku turned to look at Aizawa and made eye contact for a split second. Deku pulled his arm and said, "Fine, you're the boss," I raised ahead, and began to walk away. That's when the dumbass Ida manages to catch his breath and say, "You villain, you'll pay for this." Aizawa's scarf begin to rise and says, "You bruh, I just saved you and you're causing more drama." Deku has now had enough and is fed up, dashed at Ida. Aizawa tried to cancel his quirk, but to his surprise, Deku's speed didn't change. Aizawa tried to catch him with a scarf, but when it wrapped around Deku, he easily tore it off him, and then kicked Ida in the face, knocking him out and sending him flying away, and yells, "Go fuck yourself, you blue-haired bitch," and then begins to try to leave. Aizawa says, "You idiot," and grabs him again. This time Deku glares at Aizawa, and Aizawa notices Deku's eyes are glowing red. And not only this, he has this like feeling about him. No, a better word, a pressure is coming from Deku. He had only felt this once before in his life, and it was when he was face to face with Foran. But this pressure was nowhere near what he felt. Like, the pressure that Deku was giving off was nowhere near what all Foran gave off. It was, how could he explain it? It was like he was in front of the ruler of the universe or something. Aizawa laughed his thought off, as how could a kid be the ruler of a universe? Aizawa let him go, and Deku just muttered, "I'm going home, I'm sick of this, forget you, eh?" Aizawa hearing this worries, knowing that what you've seen today, Deku can make an amazing hero, but at the same time, one of the world's worst villains. Deku was walking home thinking about everything that just happened. What was that feeling? When Aizawa grabbed him, it felt like he wanted to kill and destroy everything. Deku's not ignored this, as it really doesn't matter to him. As he's walking, he hears someone say, "Yo!" But due to Deku already being in a bad mood, he just decides to ignore whoever it is. That's when he hears, "Oh, you Deku bastard! I'm talking to you!" Immediately Deku turns around and sees Bakugo. Deku says, "I really ain't in the mood right now, Bakugo. If you try to piss me off." Deku glares at him and says, "I might kill you." Hearing this, Bakugo absolutely shits himself, as all he could think was, where did that sweet little kid go? But then Bakugo remembers that sweet little kid disappeared when he bullied him. But Bakugo mans up and gulps and says, "No, actually, I just wanted to apologise." This catches Deku off guard, as Bakugo was never the one to apologise, as Bakugo drops down to the bar and says, "I'm so sorry, Zuko, for what I did when I was a kid. It wasn't right, and I'm so sorry I made your life like a living hell. I regret it till this day, and I still do at this very moment. I'm so sorry. And even though I know you probably won't, I'd like to be friends again." Deku looks at Bakugo and for a split second he remembers when they were best friends as a child. And he also remembers how he's never seen or heard of Bakugo saying sorry to anyone. Deku smirks and says, "Wow, the great Katsuki Bakugo apologizing to Miha." Bakugo still doesn't raise his head. Deku proceeds to laugh and says, "Raise your head." Bakugo does, and he sees Deku smiling. Deku proceeds to put his hand out and says, "Since it's so unheard of and such a rare thing for you to apologise, I'll guess I'll make an exception this time and forgive you. Bakugo, or should I say, Ka-chan." I'm never doing that again. Hearing this, Bakugo's eyes light up and he smiles and shakes Deku's hands and says, "Friends." Deku says, "No, best friends." Bakugo begins to laugh until Deku suddenly punches him in the stomach, making him cough up a bunch of spit. Deku then says, "And that's for giving me the nickname Deku, because out of all your bullying, the only thing I couldn't get rid of was that nickname." Bakugo smirks and says, "That's fair," as he suddenly wraps around Deku, putting him in a headlock and says, "This is for smashing my head through a desk." Deku laughs and says, "Is that so? Well, you asked for this." Deku's hair turns purple, confusing Bakugo, until suddenly Deku takes off flying at full speed, causing Bakugo to have to cling on for dear life and yells, "You can fly, since when?" Deku says it's called training assholes every day till you can barely move. Him and Bakugo begin to laugh, and Deku reminisces the good memories, and as if like magic, all them bad feelings that Deku was having just disappeared. They both went to Deku's house, shocking Inko, but she was happy that they were friends again. They both began talking about the exam, and then Bakugo said, "What about the 0-point robot? What was up with that? It was impossible to deal with." Deku laughed and said with a straight face possible, "I destroyed it." After hearing this, Bakugo froze for like 5 minutes, and after like 20 minutes he still couldn't believe it. He then goes on to say, "If you destroyed it, you're definitely getting into UA, I guess everyone in middle school was right, huh?" Hearing this, Deku lost a smile and says, "Nah, I'm not gonna go UA." Hearing this, Bakugo goes, "Huh? Why?" Deku explains what happened with Ida and Aizawa, and Bakugo gets pissed off at Ida, but then goes to Deku, "Are you a bitch?" Deku gets confused and says, "No." Bakugo says, "Well, I think you are." Deku gets annoyed and says, "What do you say to me?" Bakugo then proceeds to say, "So you let a guy weaker than you talk trash, but you still beat his ass, but then walk away with all your feelings hurt. And because your feelings get hurt, you're going to choose not to take the best opportunity of your life that could actually change it and make sure you'll be able to support your mother or change anyone you want's life. That sounds like a bitch to me. Hearing this, even though Deku didn't want to admit it, but Bakugo's logic made perfect sense. Deku then says, no, that's not the only thing. He then explained all his feelings. I wanted to destroy everything and etc. And Bakugo just says, so what? I have the same feelings, but what I figured out after you kicked my ass too many times, it's better to use those feelings or desires to fuel your training. Hearing this, Deku thinks for a moment and says, yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe I'll give you a chance. After this, the boys spend the rest of the night catching up, and then Bakugo goes home. Deku spends the next week training, and I need to explain something quick to you, like, yeah. The reason Deku can fly and shoot Ki's blast is because that some of Frieza's powers, and I know I said that he only got, it's like that ability is some of Frieza's power, innit? And I know I said that he only got potential, like Frieza's potential from his soul, but after getting one for all, it sort of bonded with the Frieza / Deku's soul, sort of half reviving it, which is going to let Deku use some of Frieza's powers, but also could change his personality. You never know. I just wanted to explain that because after watching the last video I realised I did not explain it. Over the week, Deku learns that in his normal form, he just has super strength, super speed, super durability, super stamina, super regeneration, etc. All the basics that you normally get. But when he activates one for all, his hair goes purple and he gains other abilities as well. And as he trains in this other form, he gets stronger a lot quicker. Like, I mean, when I mean a lot quicker, I mean like 10 times, maybe 20 times stronger, like faster than normal. Therefore, as the week ends, Deku was doing his weight training, where he went to swap weights, and like he was doing his weight training, he went to swap the weights. The weight he was going to go pick up flew towards him without Deku touching it. And this confused Deku until he tried it again, and another weight came flying towards him. That's when Deku discovered that he had telekinesis. But this didn't surprise Deku, as he just assumed he got it from his mother. That's suddenly when Inko burst into the room and yelled, "It's here, Izuku, your letter from UA!" Deku took it and went back into his room. He opened it and a hologram of All Might appeared, which explained how he got 1001 combat points and 200 rescue points. Deku ignored most of it until All Might said, "Now young Midoriya, I heard what happened between you, the Tenure Boy and Eraserhead. Now listen, I know people can frustrate you, but violence is never the answer. In my opinion, you should have..." Before All Might finishes, Deku just decides to smash the device and said, "Hypocrite, you literally beat people up for a living and get praised for it." Deku goes back to training and masters his telekinesis ability. We now skip 2 weeks later, where Deku is now walking through the UA corridors trying to find Class 1A, and finally he finds a door. When he opens it, he sees all of Class 1A, but the thing that catches his eye is that Ida Kid was in his class, and he was arguing with Bakugo of all people. As soon as Ida saw Deku, he marched over to him and began to yell, "How dare you show your face out after assaulting me? That's a crime. How can a criminal be allowed into UA? I will not stand for this. On the name of the Tenure family, you will not stay in UA for another day." Deku just glares at him and says, "Shut the fuck up, you smurf having Humpty Dumpty 4-eyes Kermit the Frog looking bitch. Before I bitch you for the second time in front of everyone." The entire class starts laughing, but Ida turns red with rage, and in the rage throws a punch at Deku. Aizawa under the desk is about to step in, but Ida just freezes and is raised in the air. But Deku's hair is now purple using telekinesis. Ida is raised in the air with his arms locked to his side and is unable to speak, and all he can think is telekinesis. How many abilities does he have? Deku begins to speak and says, "How many times do I need to beat your ass for you to learn? You keep running your mouth trying to insult me. Tell me I will never become a hero, but when someone was in need, you ran away, and afterwards tried to lecture me about it, after I am the one who saved her. You then continued to push me after I hit you until Eraserhead stepped in to save you. Speaking of which, next time you see him, you should fake him, otherwise you wouldn't be walking around now." Ida actually felt fear by this threat, and slowly realised how much he fucked up. Why would he pick a fight with a guy like this? Deku drops Ida, who manages to say, "If you keep attacking everyone who pisses you off, you won't have many friends." But that's when he turns to see Deku fist bumping Bakugo and sitting next to him. This is when Aizawa sits up from the desk and says, "You're all so noisy." Seeing him, Deku gets annoyed and thinks, why did it have to be him? He He acted like this because since the whole Ida thing happened, he stopped liking Eraserhead, especially the fact that he grabbed him like that. Like he grabbed him like he was above him. As I explained how he's their teacher, it's explained all etc, and that they was gonna have a fitness exam. They all left to go outside, and as I explained how the person who came last would be excluded. This scared most of them, but not Deku or Bakugo. As I called Deku up and said since he was first with 1,202 points, everyone hearing his score was shocked, but Aizawa continued. Due to him getting the highest, he would go first in the ball throw, and Aizawa told him to use his full power. Deku just kissed his teeth at Aizawa as his hair turned purple. Deku planned to throw it as hard as he could, and then if it doesn't go just into space, which he 100% would, he would just use his telekinesis to boost it. Deku begins to get ready, and just before he throws it, Aizawa wanted to test his theory and cancel his quirk. Deku's hair returns to green, and he notices this, and he thinks Aizawa was trying to embarrass him or something, so he throws it even harder, causing it to shoot into space, giving him affinity. Deku turns to him and yells, "What the hell is your problem? Why do you keep messing with me?" Aizawa, confused by that attitude, says, "What do you mean? I tried to cancel your quirk and it didn't work like before, confirming my theory that my quirk doesn't work on yours." Deku yells, "It does, you idiot, watch." Deku activates one for all and grabs another ball. This time just by flicking the ball it gets infinity. And then he shows that he can fly, and then his telekinesis, he then creates a ki blast and shoots in the air, and then tells Aizawa to use his quirk, which causes Deku's hair to immediately return to the green colour and the ki blast just disappear. Aizawa's confused and says, "Why does it work sometimes?" Deku is now pissed off, yells, "It's because my quirk has unlimited potential. I get a lot stronger quicker by training, and you can't cancel the strength I've gained by training because it's became part of me. Same way you can't cancel out someone with a quirk that lets them have a tail. But when I transform on my hair turns purple, that's my quirk's other ability, and it boosts all my abilities by a lot and gives me access to these other powers. But you keep on fucking me over for no reason. Some teacher you are." Aizawa finally had enough and says, "I'm sorry for messing with your score, but you still got infinity, but talk with me with some damn respect. I'm your teacher." Deku yells back, "Why would I give respect to some worn out, barely living waste of space bastard like you?" Aizawa's scarf begins to rise, and Deku yells, "You wanna go? Good, I can get some payback for it before." Hearing this confuses Aizawa, and he says, "What do you mean before?" Deku says, "Before, you let that smurf bastard talk to me like a little piece of shit, belittle me, try to bully me. When I stood up for myself, I was the one you tried to punish, and then you grabbed me like it was my dad." As I was hearing this, it all began to make sense to him. He had read Deku's file after the exam and learned that Deku was severely bullied as a child, which led to multiple students, because he was thought to be quirkless, which led to multiple students being hospitalized when his quirk actually awakened, and as well as growing up without a father. Aizawa realised that Deku's anger was pretty justified based on his past, and then says, "Listen, you're right, I know, I'm so..." As he looks up, Deku's foot is literally a few centimetres away from his face, but Bakugo manages to grab Deku just in time and yelled, "Calm down, you can't hit a teacher." Deku's eyes turned red, and Aizawa felt the same feeling as before. Aizawa yells, "Get away from him!" But as he says this, a pink aura exploded from Deku's body, sending Bakugo flying away. Deku tried to rush at Aizawa again, and Aizawa tried to cancel his quirk, but this time it didn't work at all. This is when All Might, who was watching from afar, jumped in and grabbed Deku using all his strength to subdue him. And he yelled, "Young Midoriya, please calm down." But even All Might wasn't enough, as Deku blows him away with one punch. Deku began to charge up a ki blast until he heard a screech of pain. This brought Deku back to his senses, and he turned to see Bakugo holding his leg in pain. Deku ran over and immediately began to apologise repeatedly, but Bakugo laughed through the pain and says, "Nah, it's fine. I'll take this as your last bit of payback." Deku didn't laugh though. All he could think was that he hurt his friend. He began to panic and think that, and that's when he came up with the idea. He placed his hands above Bakugo's leg and began to inject ki into it. This caused Bakugo's leg to heal instantly, allowing Deku to feel a bit less bad. Aizawa walked over and said, "Listen, Midoriya, I'm sorry. I didn't think before I acted, and it meant that you was the... I didn't think before I acted, and it meant you was the one made to feel less than you actually are. But you can't have an outburst like this, as it only needs the people you care about getting hurt. This is an example of it." Deku looked at Bakugo and pushed Aizawa's arm off him and said, "Yeah, whatever. I just don't think you is for me." And he then flew away. Deku went home and went straight into his room. His mum was worried about him, but didn't know what or how to say what would make him feel better. That's when the doorbell rings and she answers the door for it to be All Might, Aizawa and Bakugo. Aizawa begins to speak and says, "We're Deku's teachers, I'm the pro hero racer." Inko cuts him off and says, "No need to introduce yourself, Izuka has pictures of you two all over his walls." Aizawa hearing this was shocked, because by the way Deku reacted to him, he thought he hated him before anything else. And this was because even before, most people didn't really like him, as he doesn't take time for the public at all, as he just focuses on his job. After Aizawa was about to introduce Bakugo, she says, "Hello Katsuki, you know where his room is." And Inko explained how she's best friends with Bakugo's mom and how Deku and Bakugo are friends since they were little. After this, Aizawa and All Might and Bakugo go to Deku's room, and when they open the door they see Deku doing handstand push-ups, but the crazy thing is he has 4 tons of weight on his feet like that clip with Zoro was doing. Seeing this, everyone was shocked, as they knew he trained but they didn't know he trained this hard. Deku senses them and immediately uses telekinesis to lift the weight off him and puts it away. He turns to them and says, "Why the fuck are you in my house? Did Bakugo tell you where I live?" Aizawa says, "No, your address is on our system and Bakugo actually got here just before us. We were actually confused ourselves why he was here, but then we learned you two are friends." Deku then says, "Okay, you can get out now then." Aizawa looks on Deku's desk and sees posters of him that had been clearly torn off the wall and says, "Can I ask why you had posters of me? From the way you acted, I assumed you didn't like me even before all of this happened." Deku calms down a bit and says, "You was my favourite hero, even more than All Might." All Might hearing this hurt his pride a little bit, because he wasn't even his successor's favourite hero. But then Deku continued, "You was my favourite because you didn't change and act like what the public wanted you to act like, or would have preferred you to do. You just did what you wanted, what would actually benefit the public, as well as you believed in fairness over anything else. But then I was proved that was all wrong. When I was just a child, I was bullied, beaten every day, just because they thought I was a quirkless. Is that fair? No. But then I got a quirk and I fought back. But instead of being welcomed by them, I was shunned as a monster or a villain because my quirk was better than theirs. Is that fair? I thought you would be different, but it's the same thing happening even with you." Hearing this, Aizawa dropped his head and bowed and said, "I'm very sorry, Midoriya. I failed you as a hero and even more importantly as your teacher. I should have took everything into account before I acted. And while yes, you shouldn't have attacked him, he shouldn't have got away with what he said to you, as he multiple times started arguments with you, insulted you, and tried to belittle you, and that by all accounts is bullying, and I should have acted on it sooner. But even with all that, Aizawa raises his head, I will stand firm on that, the fact you can't just attack people to get your own way." Seeing this, Deku smirks and laughs and says, "I didn't think I'd see the number 10 hero bow to a student." Deku himself now bows and says, "I'm also sorry for overreacting. I will just never stand for being belittled or made fun of, but I also don't really knows what happens sometimes. When I get angry, my quirk just surges and I lose myself, and that's why I will not be returning to UA." Aizawa said, "I noticed it happens when your eyes go red and you exude this pressure." Deku looks at Bakugo and All Might and they both nod. Deku puts his head down a bit ashamed that he can't control his own quirk, and said, "Yes, it's for the better I don't return to UA, I'll just end up hurting someone." Hearing this, Aizawa and All Might begin to laugh and says, "That's why you should stay in UA, so we can help you learn to control it." Deku sits up and says, "I guess you're right, but I don't know." Aizawa says, "We're going on a trip next week. You can come then, you can have the rest of the week off to think about it." Deku agrees. We now have a little skip to 1 week later. Class 1A at the USJ, just like canon. They go in and get their introduction until Kaminari, just like canon, until Kaminari says, "Wow, they even have fake villains." Hearing this, Aizawa immediately tells 13 to protect the kids and informs all his students that it isn't a draw, these are real villains. That's when the purple pool opens behind them and tries to suck in all the class, but Deku senses it and turns around and using his telekinesis manages to push it back, and he figures out that it has a main body and uses telekinesis to begin to crush it. Kurogiri begins to scream and teleports away. Deku turned to Ida and said, "Go get the other pro heroes." Ida said, "Why would I listen to someone like you?" Deku's eyes turned slightly red and a chill went down Ida's spine. as he remembered what Aizawa said to him a few days ago. If he continued to provoke Deku, then he would be excluded, as well as no one would save him from Deku. Hearing this, Ida immediately took off running and got out of the USJ. Aizawa, who was now fighting the villains, is slowly being overpowered and worn out. That was until Deku came flying in and took out 10 villains in a matter of seconds. Aizawa turned and said, "No, run!" Deku laughed and said, "I've never run from anything in my life, and I don't plan to start it now. You know, out of all your students, I'm probably the strongest." "Not probably, I'm the strongest. I'm stronger than you, bruv." Aizawa laughed and agreed. Suddenly, Deku's senses went crazy, and he kicked Aizawa out of the way as a weird creature came in from the sky, smashing the ground where Aizawa just was. If Deku didn't kick him out of the way, Aizawa would have died. Deku looked at the creature and said, "Ooh, what the fuck is that?" That's when someone with hands all over their face began to laugh and said, "Behold, this is the creature that will end all of you. It's as strong, if not stronger than All Might, and will kill you all." Deku smirked at this and says, "I'm what, bro? I'm not scared of you. Pussy, get some chapstick." This pisses, as we know, Shigaraki off, and he yells at Nomi to attack him. The Nomi swings at Deku, but Deku just dodges and kicks it so fast his arms actually cut off. And then he yelled, "It's stronger than All Might, huh? It's a good thing that I'm also stronger than All Might." Deku then punched the Nomi in the stomach, sending it flying away. Shigaraki says, "That won't work as shock absorption." He turns to the Nomi, who has just got out of the crater, but then this black goo comes out of its mouth and it drops to one knee. Shigaraki yells, "Impossible! He can hit it so hard that the shock absorption is nullified." But that doesn't matter, it can heal far superior than any other hero. As he says this, the Nomi instantly gets back up and its arm grows. Deku, seeing this, is amused and says, "Cool, you bought me a punching bag." Deku's head turns purple and he shoots a ki blast at the Nomi. This burnt it up and blew its arms off, but it instantly healed. Shigaraki began to get confident and said, "See, no matter what you do, you can't beat it." Deku laughed and says, "What if I just punch it harder and faster?" Shigaraki was confused as he thought Deku hit it as hard as he could previously, but as we all know, when Deku's head goes purple, he gets stronger, and he rushed at the Nomu. He rushed at the Nomi and begins to throw punches faster than the eye can see, until suddenly the Nomi just explodes into millions of tiny pieces. Seeing this, Shigaraki's world collapses, and he runs to Kurogiri, who's injured himself. The entire time he's running, he is yelling, "It's not fair, it's not fair, it's not fair." Hearing this makes Deku's eyes slightly glow red, and he smirks. He turns to Shigaraki, who's just about to run through Kurogiri. Pause. That sounds a bit mad, and instead of letting him go, he uses telekinesis to crush Shigaraki's chest, and just as he got through Kurogiri in it, and the portal closes, leaving Shigaraki back in his base, throwing up blood everywhere, barely breathing, on the point of death, until All For One appeared and healed him. Other than that, guys, I hope you did enjoy this episode. If you did, make sure you share it with your friends, family, like, subscribe, comment down below, all goodness. And yeah, try and hit the like goal, of course, and all that. But if you're wondering why these videos take so long, I have not had any Wi-Fi at all. I just figured out I could use my data on my computer. I actually didn't know it, guys. I feel ashamed. But yeah, that's why the videos are back. So yeah, other than that, guys, I'm not going to drag out the outro for too long. Just make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, hit the comment down below, hit the notification bell so you don't miss another fucking upload from yours truly. And yeah, other than that, guys, peace out. Bye.